Confluence Park's Phase 2 is a habitat restoration project to benefit Chinook salmon and other salmon species that occupy both Issaquah Creek and East Fork Issaquah Creek. So this project started in early June, and we expect construction to be done in August. Both these streams have been impacted by over 100 years of farming and urban development, and the city's doing our part to restore those natural functions that have been lost. On this site, the old Anderson farm, there's been a lot of rock placed along the creek, concrete and debris, and it's really constrained the channel to this very tight corridor, and that's bad for fish. So what we're doing here is basically reconstructing the stream back to its near natural condition as we can, excavating a lot of soils out of the floodplain to create that floodplain storage. Now on East Fork Issaquah Creek, we're actually moving a large part of the channel to a new channel to create the habitat. The old channel has been too constrained, too tight of a location to restore in place. Fortunately, at the park here, we have a lot of room to allow us the space needed for all the habitat structures. We expect to divert the creek back into the new channel and basically abandon the old channel, which will actually become more of that riparian zone where we'll replant and create a buffer between here and the adjoining properties. This fall we're going to come in with Mountain Sound Greenway Trust, and they're going to help organize several planting events starting in late October. Plant several thousand trees and shrubs to get the riparian zone, all the vegetation within the buffer growing again. That'll take several years to grow up. Salmon are the biggest beneficiaries when they come up in the fall and to spawn. We'll have a lot more spawning habitat. We'll have an irrigation system set up for when planting occurs starting in October or November. We'll be on this project for at least 5 years, and each year we'll be back with maintenance. Here's an example of the almost completed restoration project along the main stem of Issaquah Creek. There's a lot of floodplain excavation that occurred over here. There's a big pile of rock that we pulled out, which is only a portion of what we took out along the bank. Fortunately, we have a project nearby, the Dogwood Street Bridge, that needed quite a bit of rock, so it's being recycled. So it's not a loss. It's a benefit to the project that we can take it out one place and use it for an actual use on a bridge. In the channel behind me, you can see, in addition to the floodplain excavation, a lot of logs along the creek. That's the habitat logs, securely anchored into the ground with earth anchors, so they're very stable, will not float downstream, even during the 100-year flood condition, which will pretty much fill up the whole excavation area behind me. The project is designed to accommodate those floodwaters, and actually, because of all the excavation, we're getting a flood benefit by reducing flood elevations in the area around properties around the park area here. So the woody debris in the creek, they're basically stumps and logs anchored into the ground. They provide the roughness in the floodplain to slow the floodwaters down, but also creates deep pools for the salmon and other fish to hide in. With those pools, it creates what's called the runout from the pools just downstream, and that's where the spawning gravels accumulate, and that's the other part of salmon habitat. You have refuge areas for fish to hide, but they also need to spawn, so it's those gravels that are particularly valuable to create in a restoration project.